Hello and welcome back to the chicken tractor build. Today I will be putting on the hoops and the fencing and the door. So let's get started. So first of all, I'm going to be marking where I'm going to drill the holes for the PVC pipe, and I'm going to probably do that using a white paint marker because pencil won't really show up on here. I got where I want to drill marked. It's about 3/8 from this edge. All of the markings are like that. They're about 3/8 from the inside edge here. And this one's at 3.5 inches because the bit is going to be 1 inch wide. And these screws come in 2.5 inches. So I want to make sure I'm clearing the screws. And it should look something like this when I'm done. It's not going to be all the way on the outside, but it's going to be more on the inside like that. And I'm just going to tack them down with some just regular screws. Now before I start drilling with the spade bit, I'm going to start a small pilot hole with this 1/8 bit here, and that'll hopefully help it from slipping around when I'm getting it started and keep it right where I want it. Well, now that I'm done with that, I'll move on to drilling the big holes. And since this drill is a little low on battery and it takes quite a bit of power to get kind of deep with this thing, I decided I'm going to use the old Makita. So this should be interesting. The thing doesn't seem to be going deep very quickly. I wonder why. Well, I'm not sure what's happening, but it doesn't appear to be going any deeper. It looks kind of burnt in the hole. And I think maybe it's because the pin bottomed out, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to try drilling another pilot hole in the center of this and see if it goes any deeper. Seem to go a little bit deeper. I'll check if that's as deep as I want. A little deeper yet. I was trying to get it to go to 1 inch. I might not go that deep. But I have this square set to 1 inch here, and it's almost there. So I think it's bottoming out though. I'm going to try again. That's pretty good. Well, that looks good enough for me. It's about 1 inch. So we'll see if that works with the pipe. And it looks kind of like this bit might be dull or something, but it kind of feels like that pin is bottoming out at some point. So I just keep having to drill it deeper. So I'll get back to you when I'm done drilling the other holes, and I'll let you know how that went. Well, after I finished cutting this hole on this corner, I decided to test the PVC pipe in it, and it looks great. So I guess it does work in the 1 inch hole. I thought it would, but wasn't sure. So I'll drill the other holes and then get these tacked in. This has got quite a bit of tension on it. Well, the holes are all cut now. It smells kind of smoky in here. I think that's, like I said before, that bit may be kind of dull. It's old. I don't know how long, like if it's ever been used. So it wasn't probably as efficient as it could have been, but I still got the job done. So now I'm ready to put the pipes on, and I got to think of how I'm going to attach them, because as I recall in the article, the person used screws going sideways through the pipe, but most of what we got is long screws, and I don't know how that'll secure it. So I'll look around at what I got, and I'll get back to you when I find something. So I was trying to think of good ways to secure this down, and like I said, screws, the ones we got are kind of short, and well, they're either too short or too long, so I don't want to blow through out the side, and I think a screw that's too short might not hold well. So I was trying to think of some kind of glue we had, and I remembered my dad had some liquid nails. So I thought, oh, I'll use that. Except there was a screw in the end, and I have no idea how old this stuff is. And I couldn't get the screw out, so I was trying, and finally got the screw to start coming out. But this is what happened. The nozzle snapped off. I might just end up using it anyway, or I might think of something else. I don't know. That's really weird. Kind of annoying. Well, here's the hoops put on. I did end up using that liquid nails, and what I did is I put it in the caulk gun, got a piece of cardboard, and I put a big slug on there. And before I used it, I sanded the ends of the pipe so that it would grip a little better. And then I took some liquid nails on the end of a cotton swab and smeared it in the holes, and then put the PVC pipe ends in there. And after I was done, I took the whole wad of nastiness, put it in a bag, tied it up, and whipped it in the trash. So that's how liquid nails went today, but I think if I had a newer bottle, it would have gone better. Anyway, I don't know if that liquid nails is really the best thing or whatever, but like I said, we don't really have large screw selection right now, and I'm just trying to use what we did have. So moving on to the next part. The next part is building the door frame. So I looked at what lumber I got, and I actually surprisingly don't have a lot of tall stuff because I need this. It is about 41 inches ish at the height. It was like 43, but kind of where I want the door to be is 41. It's probably gonna be, the door's probably gonna be about 2 feet wide, but I need the door posts. And what I got for that, I was looking at these. These might work if I put the notches on the outside of the door post. I was thinking of using those for the door post, and then these are leftover cuts from these boards here, and I was thinking of using these to make the frame for the door. I don't know if I'll stretch wire across it or maybe do pallet boards. I'll figure that out. So I might use these for the main door frame and these for the door posts, or vice versa. So I'll figure that out, and when I figure that out, I'll cut them. Well, I don't know if I'll cut them yet. Let me figure that out. I'll figure it out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find where 2 feet is in the center, and then kind of get the general height, cut them to kind of the general height, and then mark the round on them with a pencil. Just mark that rounded area. And I think I have a chisel set, and I watched a Paul Sellers video. He showed how to cut curves with just a handsaw and chisels. So I think I might try that. The only downside to that method is I don't have a bench vise, but I'm sure I can find something that'll work. Now that I got the boards cut, what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach them at the bottom, and in the original post, I think I used 45-degree braces, kind of things that went up from the side to the door frame, and I might cut those first so that they'll have a little more support, and then after I got them secured, I'll chisel the tops to a round. Well, now that that's done, we can move on to the side supports. So now that I got this cut to a 45-degree angle, I'm going to put this board on here and just kind of hold it and stand it up on the 45 side until it hits about here, because I don't want to get the other angle in this part. I feel like this will give it more strength up here. And I'll mark it on the spot that touches that point and measure it and get the general measurement and make sure it's the same on the other side, and then cut them to the size. Well, there's the side supports. They're not perfect, which isn't surprising because I wasn't trying to get them perfect, just for functionality, just to hold it up better, because the angle got a little off and I ran out of space on the board and whatnot, but that's fine. So they're not secured yet. I'm going to do that, and after that I might round this, and then there's supposed to be a spacer here because the pipe's kind of leaning into the board right now, but they're about, they might be a little bit like an inch apart or something. I can just cut a little spanner piece here, but I might do that after I round this part. So I'm going to tack in and we'll keep moving on. Well, here's what happened when I tried to use a chisel around it. I kind of expected that because I'm going into the grain. In the Paul Sellers video, the curve was in the piece of wood like that, and he was cutting in like that. So I kind of expected that, so now I'm not sure what to do. I think what I might do is try to take a handsaw. I mean, it's already attached now, so I might just take a handsaw and kind of try to do an angle on it. It's not going to look pretty. And maybe try to smooth it out a little bit with some sandpaper, but I'm not sure. Alright, let's see how I got it down here and how I did it. First I tried a sawzall. Well, first I tried a handsaw, and that was too big. Then I tried a sawzall. It was like rattling the tar out of this thing, so that didn't work. But I had a small tree trimming handsaw. Here's this one. And it was still pretty tough, and it's obviously not super great, but it worked. So I think I'll do that on this one too. And I'll film that so you can get an idea of how difficult it is to do this. So yeah, not super great, but it works. So if you have a jigsaw or something better than what I have for doing that, then you use it, and especially before you put it on. So now I'll move on to the blocks to kind of separate this and put this pipe in the place it should be. Well, there's the spacers put in. You saw there was some bumps, and then I ended up clamping this and unscrewing it, and then screwing it back in so that it was flush because it was kind of sticking off there a bit. But it turned out overall pretty well. So now I'll work on the door, and I'll just start with the basic frame and go from there. Well, here's the door frame. It ended up being pretty square, and how I do that, I've done it before on a different frame I built, but I do kind of like pocket holes and do 3 connections, but on the last one, leave it undone, and then I clamp diagonally across it and measure from corner to corner. Well, I only clamp diagonally across it if it's unsquare. If it's unsquare, I clamp diagonally across it to correct it, and then clamp down. And then when it's in the square, I clamp this side to keep it from moving, and then screw it in, and it ends up being pretty square. And this still has some flex in it because there's only 1 screw on each connection. But my next plan is, since these are a little too short to have the hinge kind of fully fit on it, it kind of sticks off a bit. I think what I might do is I might take a bunch of thinner boards and lay them across here, and on the top one I might try to round it with the chisels, because that'll actually work that time, because I'll be going into the grain this way instead of like that. So I'm gonna get some thin boards and cut them in length and attach them, and that's when I'll make sure I have it finally square, because those will really help it not move. Well, there's that all put together now. You'll notice I cut one board twice, and that was because I accidentally cut it too long, and I don't know how that happened. But too long is better than too short. Anyway, it's time to move on to hanging it, and what I think I'm going to do first is put the hinges on, and then rest the door on top of some kind of shim, like paint sticks or something, and then screw the hinges on here. I know this is pretty flat, but the door frame is pretty unsquare. Like at the bottom it's good at the right distance, but it kind of branches out as it comes to the top. So that's what I'm going to do. Get the hinges attached, and then we'll hang the door. Well, there's the door hung. I used a ruler and a paint stick to shim it off the ground. Well, this part of the frame here. It ended up working okay. Got the latch set up. I had to mess around a lot with this latch. You'll see it's really not like completely on the wood. That's because, like I said, the frame is unsquare, smaller at the bottom, gets bigger at the top. So it seemed a little wobbly, but I think when I put some of the wire on and whatnot, it'll get better. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of give the general mark on these and try to round it just a bit so the fence fits better over the top. Well, there's this rounded, sort of. I used the chisel, like I said. I ended up clamping it to the back porch because I do not have a vise, but the porch had a big beam, so I just clamped it to that and made saw cuts down the line and chiseled it. I think some of my saw cuts were too deep, and yeah, it didn't turn out super great. After I chiseled it, I cleaned it up with some sandpaper. Could have been better, but first try, so whatever. If you had a jigsaw or something, it might work better. But it works for what I need it to do, so I'm not too worried about it. So I suppose now I'll end up priming and painting this and then moving on to the fence. Well, I'm done painting it, and it got a little messy on the hinges, but it wasn't really a big deal because, you know, like I said, functionality. And we put some of the wire on. My grandpa's helping me, and the staples are a little tough to get in there, especially straight. I hit my thumb really hard with the hammer. It's going to leave a mark. And we put this side on, we clipped it down, and left some ends on to wind it around. It's a little sharp, so we got to figure out something to do for that. But we'll do over here, these openings, put wire on there. We might take this scrap and put it across the top because it didn't go all the way over. What I should have done is instead of putting the end here, put it in between these, because then it would have been a true 8 feet, but I didn't. So if you build it, you might want to do that. So time to add more wire. Well, we finished all the wire now. We put 2-foot chicken wire on here. I wouldn't recommend kids go around this a lot because there's a lot of wires kind of mangled up and stuff. Like we used kind of cut the ends and then wove them together for these rounded parts. So it got a little messy. It's a little sticky. And for this is again, we're going to put the tarp over. It's going to be kind of pokey on the tarp. And I was afraid it was going to rip it. So we had an old hose laying around that we were going to throw away anyway. So I cut a length of that and cut a slit down it and zip tied it over here. So now I'll put on the tarp. Well, here's the tarp on. It got a little bunchy at the back. It's secured down to the grommets quite a bit, so I don't worry about it blowing away. It might kind of puff up in the wind a bit, but I mean, what do you do with this rectangle on a semicircle? The other side ended up fine. You know, I just put zip ties to the grommets and zip tied it to the frame, like the wire. So the last thing to do is to move it outside. Well, that's it for this video. In the next video, I plan to show you the first 3 weeks of us raising these little stinkers. That'll hopefully be next week, and later after that I'll show the next few weeks, but just to start out the first 3. So until then, have a good one. Bye.